What's up, fellow Gen Xers and enthusiasts? Welcome to Xhale and Rewind, where we're all about celebrating our unique experiences growing up as part of Gen X. We witnessed some truly impactful moments, like the Desert Storm, the Challenger explosion, the tragic passing of Princess Diana, and the death of rock legend Kurt Cobain. But hey, we also saw some truly amazing things like the Berlin Wall coming down, the rise of MTV, the birth of arcades, the launch of the We Are the World video, mixtapes, and playing Oregon Trail on the first school computers. And we are here to share with you just a little bit about what life was like as a Gen Xer.
Xhale Rewind.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Xhale Rewind on Mike and Juju Smoke Room at the Smoke Room 420, which you can see right above my co-host.
We're coming at you with another awesome show today. I'm Juju.
Hey, and that must make me Mike, your boy and your host. Today, guys, we've got a special episode all about our generation, but not just the Gen X that we normally talk about. We're talking about that 1975 to 1980. I like to call us the Goonies generation.
Yeah, because we never say die.
Exactly. And we've got an amazing guest with us today, guys. Welcome, Leah, y'all, from Love Letters with Leah.
Hey everyone. Thanks for having me on the show, guys. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Alright, Leah, for anyone who doesn't know, has an incredible, awesome show right here on Mike and Juju Smoke Room, where she reads and discusses love letters from people of our community. It's really deep sometimes, it's really funny, and it's everything in between, y'all.
Aw, thanks for the plug.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to talk about growing up in our era today.
So today, we're going to smoke and reminisce about all things 75 to 80s kids. All that weird and wonderful stuff that shaped us.
The toys, the TV shows, the freedom we had compared to kids today.
The music, the fashion, the pre-internet existence.
Hey, before we get started, we should mention, if you're new here, make sure and hit that sub button for us. Also, if you like what we're doing, hit that notification bell so you always know when we put out new content or go live.
We drop new content every week, and we got some killer episodes lined up for y'all.
Definitely, Juju.
Yeah, I've been a fan of you guys for a while. I love how you blend nostalgia and the current topics into one episode.
Definitely, sis. That's what we're all about. Appreciating the past while enjoying the present.
Speaking of enjoying the present, what's today's topic, Mike?
Alright, so today's topic is near and dear to all three of us. Being born between 1975 and 1980 means we grew up in this unique window.
We're technically Gen X, but like the youngest segment of it. We had a completely different experience than the early Gen Xers.
Yeah, we caught the trail end of the analog world, but came of age right as the digital revolution was happening.
Alright, so let's get this session started and dive right in, y'all. We're going to talk about something we've covered on our first episode of Xhale and Rewind, but we're not going to go near into it. Cartoons and TV.
So one thing I always think about from our childhood, Saturday morning cartoons. That was like a religious experience.
Definitely getting up at like 6 a.m. Bowl of sugary cereal. And zoning out until noon.
And our parents would sleep in, and I'd be glued to the TV. I was obsessed with the Smurfs and Scooby-Doo.
Thundercats. He-Man. I mean, who else would get the TV guide and circle everything you wanted to watch?
And if you missed it, you missed it. No streaming, no recording, nothing.
Man, the struggle was real. Remember the Saturday morning preview specials they'd do? Where they'd showcase all the new cartoons coming that season.
Yeah, like for me, CBS had the best lineup, no question.
Nah, ABC was where it was at. But real talk, after school specials, those things were intense.
And they tried to scare us straight with those drugs, peer pressure, all that stuff.
The irony of us discussing this while smoking is not lost on me. Thank you for it being medicinal like it always should have been. Hey y'all, remember shows like You Can't Do That on Television? My dream was to get slime.
Double Dare. I would have done anything to be on that show.
I was more into G.I. Joe and Transformers. Those commercials disguised as shows, but we didn't care. Because no one has half the battle.
What about Rainbow Bright and Care Bears? I had so many stuffed Care Bears.
Yeah, my sister was really into those. I was more of a Voltron kid though. Like 5 robot lines forming one big ass robot. Come on.
And She-Ra. That was a badass and pretty hot. Just saying.
Remember when MTV actually played videos? I'd watch them for hours just waiting for my favorites to come on.
Hey, and recording songs off the radio. Like you'd be recording them on a cassette tape and you'd have to just wait.
Oh man, we definitely had the best TV growing up, no question.
What about those weird shows that only lasted for like a season or two? Like Small Wonder with that robot girl.
Aha! Yes, I remember that. Or Manimal, where the guy could turn into animals.
Those were so bizarre.
Right.
Remember Alf, an alien that ate cats?
How did our parents let us watch that stuff?
Hey, honestly, they were probably just glad we were occupied.
And the cartoons that actually had storylines. They weren't just mindless entertainment.
Yeah, totally. Like Dungeons and Dragons. Man, that was intense. Those kids were always trying to get home.
Hey, and Disney cartoons, afternoon, DuckTales, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Tailspin.
And don't forget Darkwing Duck. Let's Get Dangerous was my TV for like a year.
Man, I was obsessed with Jim and the holograms. That show was so outrageous.
Yeah, the commercials back then were really iconic.
Like the Kool-Aid Man, busted through Kool-Aid. Ooh. Oh yeah.
And those Fruity Pebbles commercials, where Barney was always trying to steal Fred's cereal.
Hey, remember the jingles that you could actually sing along to? My baloney has a first name.
It's O-S-C-A-R.
Alright, let's talk about toys and games for a little bit. What were your favorites growing up, Leah?
Cabbage Patch Kids were my everything. I stood in line with my mama for hours to get one of those.
Remember how they each came with adoption papers? That was genius marketing.
Yep.
Right? I was all about Star Wars action figures. Like, I'm pretty sure my parents at their house still have some somewhere.
Probably worth a fortune now. I was obsessed with my big wheel, riding that thing down hills trying to drift, yo.
Yeah.
And remember the Skip-Its? We were trying to beat your high score.
Hey, I was more of a sit and spin. Matter of fact, I'll tell you a funny story about sit and spin. When I was like 3, I was outside at a family member's house with my brother, who was 8, I guess, and my sister, who was 5. And I was playing with a sit and spin. And they all ran inside to do something in the house, and I stayed outside. And I guess what happened was I took that top off that sit and spin and just took off walking. And this old lady that lived down the street picked me up. And her first response, "Thank you, lady," was to take me to the police department. So my parents ended up having to come pick me up at the police department. Pretty
That's
funny.
crazy.
We really did entertain ourselves with the simplest things. What about video games?
Hey, Atari 2600. Like Pitfall, that was my jam, y'all.
I had the original Nintendo. Super Mario Brothers and Duck really dominated my life.
Remember blowing in the cartridges when they wouldn't work? As if that actually did anything.
Hey, and arcades. Spending all your quarters at the mall arcade.
I save my allowance all week just to play Pac-Man or Galaga.
Hey, remember when they came out with Mrs. Pac-Man? Now that was revolutionary.
Oh yeah. What about Calco Vision?
Oh.
That was briefly cooler than Atari, I think. Do y'all remember that? What?
Oh. And who had a Commodore 64? My cousin did, and I was so jealous.
Man, I had a Texas Instruments computer where you had to load the games with the cassette tape.
Hey, Texas Instruments was everything in the 80s. When our generation says loading screen, y'all, we actually mean waiting 20 minutes for a game to load while listening to screeching noises.
And let's not forget the schoolyard toys. Pogo balls, those weird clacker things that got banned.
Slap bracelets. And those were cool until those got banned because they were apparently cutting kids.
I mean, eventually everything fun got banned. Like I've talked about many times on other episodes of Xhale Rewind, lawn darts.
Ah.
My neighbor had those literal weighted darts you threw into the air.
And our parents were like, hey, just don't aim them at each other. That's different times, man.
Hey, speaking of dangerous toys, what about those creepy crawlers ovens? Like, you could get third-degree burns from those things.
My sister had an easy bake oven that actually got it hot enough to bake actual food.
Well, I had one of those fashion plate toys where you'd make a rubbing with a pencil on different outfits. And I also like Legos. I used to spend hours creating castles and tree houses and all kinds of stores.
Nice. In the home board games, we had actually family game nights.
Monopoly that never ended. Operation with the buzzer that scared the shit out of you. And don't forget ultimate slumber party games, MASH.
Right.
Determining your future husband, your car, your number of kids.
I'm still waiting for my husband, but whatever. That's a different story.
and Ball Toy Store. KB Toys was my happy place.
KB Toys.
No, Toys R Us. That jingle is burned into my brain forever.
Gonna grow up, find a choice wrecking.
Funny how we're all grown up and now talking about toys while smoking. Jeffrey the Giraffe would be disappointed.
Now, Jeffrey the Giraffe, with all the kids he dealt with in his life, would probably be a medicinal patient as well.
Yeah.
One thing about being born when we grew up analog but came of age digital.
Yeah, for sure. We're kind of like that bridge generation. We're that rotary phone and life before cell phones.
Yeah, but we adapted to technology pretty easily. And we weren't afraid of it like our parents were.
Hey, remember having to stay home and wait for a call? Like, if you miss that call, you just miss that call.
Yeah.
Or calling your crush and praying their parents didn't answer.
The panic when someone's dad picks up, that's like an instant hang up.
Yeah. You were making like mixtapes.
Yeah.
Like, it was like an art form. Like, you'd sit by the radio all night waiting for that certain song that you could put on that tape you wanted.
Yep.
Hours spent at the local record store flipping through albums.
Columbia House. 12 CDs for like, what, a penny?
Yeah, and then a boy playing full price for the rest.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I still owe that.
Yeah, I know I do.
Me too. But what about encyclopedias? Having to do research at the library.
Card catalogs. Having to use actual books for book reports.
Right. Kids today will never understand the frustration of going through an encyclopedia set and finding out your volume is missing.
Or using a physical map on road trips. No GPS, just your mom with a folded map yelling directions.
Yeah, and if you got lost, you had to find a payphone and pray that you had a quarter.
Yeah, definitely. One thing, we were present. Like, there was no phones during dinner.
We played outside until the streetlights came on.
Yeah, we had complete freedom. Our parents had no ideas where we were half the time.
Yeah, be home before dinner. That was the only rule, really.
Yeah.
Anyone remember charging stuff to your parents' phone bill, like calling those 1-900 numbers for the Nintendo game tips?
No, your horoscopes. Yeah, I definitely got grounded for that a time or two.
Yeah, I got grounded for 1-900 numbers too, but it was a little different. Anyway.
Writing actual letters to people having pen pals.
I had a pen pal once in Australia that we wrote back and forth for years.
Remember passing notes in class? Like you fold them up in these little crazy triangular, lock them in.
Yeah.
Like the teacher couldn't just unfold them and read them.
And if the teacher caught you and read it out loud, horrific.
Yeah, we had to learn to write in cursive. And they told us we'd use it forever.
You won't always have a calculator in your pocket. That's what they said.
Really believe them too?
Yeah, our generation was the last to know how to look things up manually, but the first to really embrace the internet.
Like, remember when the internet first became a thing? That dial-up sound?
And your mom picking up the phone and disconnecting you.
AOL chat rooms were my life. ASL. Anyone?
Downloading a single song would take hours, it felt like.
Yeah.
You really did have that best childhood. Not too helicopter parented, but still protected.
Well, we had 1 foot in the old world and 1 foot in the new world. It really gave us a perspective on things.
Yes, perspective. I love that. We're probably the last generation that knows how to read a paper or use a map or a phone book.
Yeah.
Or make plans in advance and actually stick to them because there was no way to text running late.
Yeah, but if you were not at the spot at the right time, yeah, your friends would just dip.
Right. All right, let's talk about some pop culture moments. Those defining pop culture moments from our childhood, y'all.
The Challenger disaster. And I remember exactly where I was when that happened. What classroom I was in even.
Yeah, definitely.
That was our generation's first collective trauma. We all saw it happen.
It was
Yeah.
deep. Remember Goonies? Like, that defined our whole generation. That sense of adventure with kids.
E.T., Back to the Future, Gremlins. Those movies shaped us.
John Hughes films. Breakfast Club was everything. A guy that finally understood teenagers.
Right? I remember like going to the video store on Friday nights. Pressure to pick out that great movie.
Yeah.
It was a lot. Like you had it all weekend.
If all the good ones were rented, you were stuck with whatever was left.
Please be kind and rewind or pay the fee.
Hey, what about music? Like we had the best variety growing up.
We went from hair metal to grunge to hip hop.
And I was obsessed with the New Kids on the Block. And I had posters, pillowcases, I had the dolls everywhere. Everything.
I was born to Guns N' Roses and Nirvana when I was,
Yeah.
a teenager, but that's what I'm still into.
Remember when Kurt Cobain died? That hit hard.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That was our generation's first celebrity loss, and that felt real personal.
Yeah, I'll never forget where I was when that happened.
What about O.J. Simpson? That white Bronco chase. Everyone was watching.
Yeah, my entire family, we were sitting around watching it, and the trial went on forever.
Yeah, and Princess Diana's death. I felt like it affected everyone.
Yeah, I stayed up all night watching that news coverage. Kind of felt like the whole world was in mourning.
Definitely.
Well, we also had some great movies specifically about our generation.
Yeah.
Dazed and Confused. Like, that was a movie that really captured that 70s vibe perfectly if y'all haven't seen it.
Yeah, Reality Bites. And that was basically a GenX manifesto.
And Empire Records. Damn the man that saved the empire.
Yeah, those movies really had killer soundtracks too.
Yeah, and that's when soundtracks were actually important. I mean, you'd buy them even if you hadn't seen the movie.
Singles, The Crow, Pulp Fiction, those soundtracks were albums in their own right.
How those fads? Like we had a lot of fads in our growing up. Slap bracelets, jelly shoes.
Hypercolor t-shirts.
There you go.
Yeah, the one that changed with your body heat. It usually shows your sweat stains.
Also, starter jackets. Everyone had to have one.
Hey, I had a Chicago Bulls one that I love. Red and white, let's go.
LA Gear light up sneakers. I begged my parents for those.
The Z Cavaricci pants. So many pleats.
Don't forget the hairspray. Like so much hairspray.
I had that mall bang. You tease them up real high as they would go and spray them down.
I had a rat tail. What was I thinking, you know?
You're right. Everybody had that phase with those over-dyed neon clothes.
Man, fashion was wild. One day you're in Keds and scrunchies, and the next you're in Doc Martens and flannels.
We went from neon everything to all black in like in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Man. All right, let's talk about school. Now, the 80s and 90s were a wild time to be a student, if you ask me.
Yeah. Dare. That was huge when we were in school. The programs that everybody thought those programs would work.
I still have my Dare t-shirt somewhere. Ironic, considering. Well,
Yeah, considering it's medicinal now and legal. Remember those presidential physical fitness tests?
Oh,
Like, having
God.
to do pull-ups in front of the whole damn class?
The shuttle run. Those pacer tests where you had to run back and forth.
I was always terrified of rope climbing in gym class. Never made it to the top.
We know why you stayed up there. Our gym teachers are always these ex-military guys with whistles and clipboards.
Man, the school lunches. Remember the rectangle pizza and the chocolate milk?
Still love rectangle pizza.
I know.
Can't find it.
Those little cartons of milk that were impossible to open correctly.
Remember the book fairs? And that was like Christmas coming to school.
Definitely.
The Scholastic Book Affairs. I begged my parents for money for those.
Hey, I was only interested in the cool pencils and erasers and stuff like that.
And Trapper Keepers. Having the coolest school supplies was everything.
No, I like those Lisa Frank folders with the neon dolphins and the glittery unicorns and all the different
Right.
colors.
Yeah, I had this really cool Ninja Turtle one in 4th grade. It was like the envy of the whole class.
What about picture day, guys? The anxiety of picking the perfect outfit.
And then being disappointed every single time the photos came back.
Definitely those awful blue laser backgrounds. Like, why was that even a thing?
And then they catch you mid-blink or with a weird, awkward smile.
Speaking of photos, remember when we had to wait to develop film? No checking if the photo was good.
Right? It took like 24 hours, and maybe you get 3 good photos a week later.
What about school dances? Trying to slow dance with someone to Everything I Do by Bryan Adams.
And it was one of my wedding songs.
Or November Rain. That song was like 9 minutes long.
That's a good one.
All right, let's talk about field trips. Like, that was a fun time as a kid. Like, you got to ride on a bus, no seat belts,
Yeah.
big ass squeaky ass bounce around seats. Good times.
The museum trips where no one really paid attention to the exhibits. They just went to get out of class.
Right?
It was all about who you sat with on the bus.
Yep.
Definitely. And remember those educational film strips on the little TV on the road
They
card?
rolled out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you knew it was going to be a good day when you walked into the classroom and you seen the cart sitting there in the front.
Right?
Yeah.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Hey, Schoolhouse Rock. That was a big one. I still know the preamble to the Constitution because of that show.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
We learned more from those songs than from our actual
Yeah.
teachers.
Right? I can't even remember some of my teachers now in my 40s.
I can remember all of them, I think.
But another show, another time. Let's talk about how we experienced the evolution of technology, because that was really our generation.
Yeah.
We went from vinyl to 8 tracks to cassettes to CDs to MP3s, all in our lifetime.
And we're just in our 40s.
Remember when getting the Walkman was like the biggest deal ever?
Right. And then Discman came out. Like, awesome at first, but they skipped so damn much.
I had one with the anti-skip protection that absolutely did not work.
Right.
But then the MP3 players came out. But then my first one held like 20 songs total.
Yeah. Remember when cell phones first became a thing?
Yeah.
Like those Nokia bricks that were indestructible?
Snake was the best mobile game ever created.
That's a basic game, too.
Yeah. And then everybody had the different ringtones, and that was a whole different industry.
Yeah, you pay like $2.99 for like a 20, 30-second clip of a song.
Yeah.
What about pagers? Having to find a payphone to call someone back.
Or using a payphone collect. You know, it's messages like, "Hey mom, I'm ready for a pickup. Do you accept the charges?"
Pick me up, Mom. Hurry up. That was the real peak resourcefulness from our generation.
I remember my family got our first computer. It was this huge beige box.
Yeah, it had Windows 3.1, using the MS-DOS commands to start games.
Right. Something we have in our intro to this show, playing Oregon Trail at school.
Love that.
Like, we were the first kids to get to play games at school.
We were always dying.
Like, it was crazy how fast I would die every time I played. I was reckless, y'all.
Or Number Munchers. That game was addictive.
Carmen Sandiego. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? I
Right?
learned so much geography from trying to catch her.
Yeah, that was a good show.
Yeah.
And when we first got AOL, like, it was revolutionary. Like, you got mail. Like, that was exciting.
Chatting with strangers in AOL chat rooms. Our parents had no idea of.
So
Making
crazy.
the perfect AIM away message was an art form.
Right? And custom buddy icons. Like, that was huge.
What about Napster? Downloading one song over 6 hours.
Yeah, you had to hope that no one called your house because it disconnected the download.
Man, our generation really witnessed the birth of the internet, as we all know it.
Remember when websites were just ugly text on colored backgrounds?
And GeoCities pages with blinking text and auto playing MIDI music.
Yeah, I mean, we really went from no cell phones to smartphones in like a decade.
Yeah.
From encyclopedias to Wikipedia, from card catalogs to Google.
Yeah, it's wild when you think about it. You know, it's no wonder we're so adaptable.
Definitely. Let's talk about the impact of being Gen X, even though we were on the tail end of it.
So, how do you think growing up when we did shaped who we are now?
You know, I think we're more adaptable, you know, because we've seen such massive technological change.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Something else big about our generation, we're skeptical.
Yeah.
We question authority more than our parents' generation did, for sure.
We're the latchkey kid generation. We learn to be independent.
But we're also a bit cynical sometimes. You know, we grew up with the Cold War fears and recession.
Yeah, definitely. The world changed so much while we were growing up. It really did. We had the Berlin Wall fall and computers becoming household items.
Yeah.
We're also the generation that really bridges the analog and digital worlds.
Yep, yeah. We can still function when the Wi-Fi goes out.
What I appreciate about most of our generation is our shared cultural references.
Like if I say Bueller, everyone knows exactly what I mean.
Yeah. Or where's the beef? Or I've fallen and I can't get up.
Commercial catchphrases were like our memes, you know?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and I love that generation doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah, we're the generation that uses humor to cope with everything.
Yeah. I think growing up when we did made us more resourceful, though. We had to figure things out. That's just how it was.
We weren't helicopter parented like kids today. We had freedom.
Yeah, but we also didn't have the pressures of social media, guys. Yep, no one was documenting all of our awkward phases.
Thank God. I went through a really crazy skater phase as an early teenager where I take old man grandpa pants that were way too big and cut them off wherever they fit me and then wear these huge shirts. It was not good. That can stay in the past.
We're kind of stuck between boomers and millennials. We get lumped in with one or the other.
But we have our own unique perspectives. We're not as idealistic as millennials, but we're not as traditional as the boomers either.
Yeah, we're pragmatic, really. We saw the economy crash multiple times in our lifetime so far.
We also grew up with better music. Sorry, but not sorry.
Movies. Modern CGI is cool, but the practical effects, yeah, that just hits different.
I mean, definitely. Our generation has a work ethic, but we also value work-life balance.
Yeah.
We're the perfect blend of digital savvy and real-world skills.
Yeah, I think that's why we're often the bridge between the older and the younger generations at work.
What about parenting? Those of us with kids parent differently than our parents used to.
Yeah, definitely. I'm more aware of my kids' mental health than my parents ever were of mine.
Yeah, I feel that. But we also don't track our kids' every move like some younger parents do
Yeah.
too.
We give them some of that freedom we had, but with more awareness.
You know, it's kind of a balance. You know, we want them to have their own Goonies adventures like we did.
Yeah, but maybe with a cell phone, just in case.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change growing up when we did for anything.
The Goonies generation really did have it good, though, I'd say.
We're old enough to appreciate what we had, but we're still young enough to enjoy what's coming.
All right, let's wrap up by talking about the future. What's next for the future of the Goonies generation, y'all?
Well, I mean, we're in our 40s now, and which is wild to think about.
When I was a kid, I thought 40 was ancient. Now it doesn't feel that different from 30.
Right. And like, we're in our prime in a lot of ways. Established in who we are, still young enough to enjoy life.
Yeah, I think our generation is redefining what middle age looks like.
For sure. Our parents were old at this age. We're still listening to new music, trying new things.
Although, my knees feel old.
Yeah. What do you think our generation's legacy will be, guys?
I think we'll be remembered as the bridge builders between analog and digital, between old values and new ideas.
I mean, yeah, we're the last generation that remembers the world before the internet changed everything. That's a crazy time.
Yeah. But we're also the generation that embraced that change, and we ran and we took off with it.
I hope our kids and their kids appreciate the unique perspective we had.
I think they will, Juju. We tell them enough stories that really stand out of what our generation was and how we're defined different than other generations, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we've maintained that Goonies spirit of adventure and friendship to pass on.
Definitely. Hey, you guys!
The perfect generation to be a part of.
What changed growing up when we did for anything, guys?
The perfect time to be a kid, really.
Perfect generation to be a part of.
Well, that about wraps up our trip down memory lane with our guest.
This was so much fun. We barely scratched the surface, though.
And we could do a whole other episode on just playground games or schoolhouse experiences.
Definitely. If you guys have enjoyed this walk down memory lane and enjoyed Leah being a part of it, let us know in the comments so we can bring her back. And also, if y'all like what we're doing, hit that sub button and turn on your notifications so you always know when we put out new content.
And drop in comments of your favorite memories from growing up in the late 70s to early 80s.
What was your favorite tour? Favorite show? Like, we want to know and we want to hear about it.
Next time, we might do a follow-up based on your comments.
Guys, I had an absolute blast reminiscing tonight. And this really took me back growing up.
Hey, thank you for being here, Leah. Hopefully everybody wants to see you come back, and even if they don't, we'll probably have you back at some time.
Definitely check her out. It's an amazing show.
Hey, next week we'll be back with another episode of Xhale Rewind, where we'll be discussing.
Whoa. It's a surprise, bro. You'll have to tune in to find out, y'all.
He's always doing this to me. I get excited like Christmas time. Like, open your present now. Alright, until then, try to keep it chill, keep it real.
And remember what Chunk from the Goonies taught us. Always put Baby Ruth bars when meeting new friends.
Peace out, Goonies.
Stay excellent to each other.
Bye, everyone.